Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business with the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's important to you. The bottom line is, we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important factors that go into establishing and growing your brand.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, new product development, broker and distributor management, new product development, brand M&A, and financing. As a part of our show, we bring our guests that are brand founders and leaders, agencies, Amazon specialists, sales agents, contract manufacturers, retailers, and investors to discuss their experiences and share their insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please subscribe to the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website to learn more at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. We would love to have you along for the ride. Let me tell you a little bit about Agency Habitat. Agency Habitat is your one-stop shop for emerging brands. From packaging design to Shopify website development, from organic social content to connected TV spots, from brand activations to influencer programs, they offer everything your brand needs to succeed, all under one roof. Contact them at www.agencyhabitat.com.
So Bruce, tell us about our newest sponsor.
Glad to, Tracy. Tired of getting crushed by chargebacks each time your brand sells product? From dealing with hundreds of forms that all look different to fighting tooth and nail to get repays, managing deductions is tough work. And you're almost certainly leaving money on the table. Fortunately, there's a solution. Floret was built to help brands like yours. With Floret's software platform, you can automate your deductions workflow, get insight into your trade spend, and even have your deductions disputed for you. Whether you're a scrappy young brand trying to break into retail or an established supplier looking to get sharper on trade, Floret will put money back in your pocket. We've saved brands hundreds of thousands of dollars this year alone. Visit www.tryfloret.com to book a demo and learn more. That's www.tryfloret.com.
Again, we encourage you to subscribe to our iTunes or Spotify channel at Road, 2 Retail.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Road to Retail, where we look to help small, emerging, and challenger brands find their way. Tracy Priest is here again. Tracy, how are you?
I'm good, Bruce. Great to be here. I know I keep showing up every time we do a show. I think that's a good thing.
God, I got to do better changing the times around to confuse you. Anyway, it's great to see you. And hey, Tracy, tell us about our guest today. Who's joining us?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a great episode. So welcome, Andrea Cherkerzian. And she is the CEO and founder of a wonderful cookie brand called P.S. I Love You. So, Andrea, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we're very excited about you sharing a little bit about your journey. So tell us, first of all, before we dive into the episode, a little bit about, your background and how you came to find this wonderful and create this wonderful brand.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me here, Tracy and Bruce. I'm very excited to be here. So I just wanted to say thank you. So I always knew I would do something with food. I've been obsessed with eating for as long as I can remember. And I can say it all began in my grandmother Rose's Boston kitchen. Everything always smelled like butter and cinnamon and brown sugar. She was always making exotic Armenian delicacies like harabia and bodeg and maybe more familiar sounding pastries like baklava. And she was Armenian, and my grandfather was a survivor of the Armenian genocide. And she always baked in a way that made everyone feel loved. And she would actually tuck little notes and write "P.S. I love you" on them. And she would tuck them into the cookie tins. And that's where the name of my company comes from, P.S. I love you. And those early memories stayed with me as I built a career in art and luxury retail from London, Berlin to Los Angeles, Geneva, Paris, where I learned storytelling and the power of emotional connection. And years later, I was diagnosed with celiac in pastry school, and I realized something was missing in the gluten free world. Everything felt clinical or compromised. I wanted to create a cookie that tasted great, not just for gluten free, but just great, period. Something that brought people together and carried a story. So I founded P.S. I Love You. I didn't come from CPG. I learned everything from scratch, but I believe that's been my strength. I built this brand the way I bake, with intuition, with care, and with a lot of persistence.
I love that. What a great
Yeah,
story.
that is a great story.
Thank
So
you.
kudos to Grandma Rose for
Yes.
planting the entrepreneurial seed with you a long time ago. Uh, my father also was diagnosed with celiac kind of back before it was cool, right? And
Yeah.
no one knew what was wrong. And
Hmm.
sadly, he's no longer with us to try your cookies, but man, did he complain that everything tasted like shirt cardboard. And
Yes.
he always dreaded that the last beer he had was, I will not name the brand, but was a really bad choice.
Yeah.
So thank you for helping make those who have celiac or choose to be gluten free, offering more tasty options. All right,
Hmm.
Andrea, time to dig in here. So, in any competitive category, and cookies certainly, at least at our Kroger here, there's like 2.5 miles of cookies. Differentiation is so critical. So, what gap in the market did you see that you felt was not being met that you could, exploit, capitalize on? Those aren't really friendly words with P.S. I love you.
Yes. I mean, that's a great question. And as I mentioned previously, most gluten-free cookies, I believe, taste like a compromise, something you eat because you have to. And I wanted to change that. I wanted cookies that were soft, that were decadent, that were memorable, cookies you'd never guess were gluten-free. So our cookies, they're 4 inches, they're baked in a dedicated gluten-free facility. They use real butter, they use oat flour, they use Guittard chocolate. They're using all premium ingredients. But what truly sets us apart is the soul behind the brand. Every cookie is inspired by my grandmother. Her story lives on the back of the wrapper. And while other brands focus on the allergens and the claims, which is great, I talk about love, heritage, and connection. This isn't a product built around restriction, it's centered around joy.
That's all.
Nice.
I love that. I love that. And I can just tell your passion for the brand just comes through as you're speaking about it. Just, I know what an appropriate name, P.S. I love you, because I can just feel that, that warmth and that passion that comes from you. So we
Thank
love
you.
that. Love that. So maybe talk to our small emerging brand audience about, what do they need to keep in mind, Andrea, as you move towards brick and mortar? What are some of the key maybe decision points that you made to say, yep, I've got this brand and I'm ready. And I know in January you mentioned that you're getting ready to launch in a pretty good size retailer. So maybe talk about, some of those decisions that you made.
Yeah, it's a big decision. So moving into brick and mortar changes everything. It's not just about, in my case, the cookie anymore. It's about systems, it's about logistics, it's about relationships. You have to understand if you're working with a distributor. In my case, I'm going to be working with Hy-Vee, also starting in this coming January, 2026. You have to understand how they work, the fees, the timelines, the deductions, so nothing catches you off guard. There's slotting, there's case allowances, free goods, and those add up quickly. So you have to build them into your budget early. I worked a long time building forecasts, a very detailed business plan. I think that's a great idea. You can always ask, friends, family to help you on it. If you don't know where to start, there's free resources online to help you with that. And I learned that your relationships are really your lifeline with your co-packer, your distributor, the retailers. Communication prevents surprises. Always communicate. And you learn that trade spending is simply part of the game. It seems like it's a lot of money, but it's really an investment in awareness.
Yeah. So true. Relationships are so important in our industry. And one of the things I wanted to highlight that you said too is understanding how the retailer works. And we talk about that a lot on our show about understanding, what are the velocity hurdles? How is the category manager or buyer compensated? What are the key metrics for them? So I applaud you that you figured that out early.
Well, and also I would just add, Andrea, all the things you rattled off leads me to believe you invested the time to really figure out what your retail price will be at the shelf, because all of us can do back of the envelope and this is my cost, this
Yes.
is the margin I'd like to make. But then it's like, whoa, trade spend, distributor fees. And all of a sudden, if you were thinking you'd come in at, I'm making this up, obviously, a price point of $7.99, by the time you figure all this in, you're at $9.50 and you're $2 higher than everything else and could be a problem. So it's really good that you worked through all of those issues. And the other thing that you acknowledged, and feel free to expound on this if you'd like, slotting and trade spend are just a fact of life. In my younger days, I spent a lot of time trying to get out of those. And way back, you could get out of some of them. But as I, moved forward in careers and times are more current, they're just a cost of doing business. So you can kid yourself you're not going to pay. Guess what? Then you're not going to be available. And if no one can find your product, you're not going to sell anything.
Mm.
So, it's best to just understand that and move along. That is not a hill to fight to the death on. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
Andrea, you talked about going into brick and mortar and how, everything really changes and it kind of comes down to execution and relationships and some of the other examples you just gave. But how did you decide which retailer to go to first when you decided on brick and mortar, and what criteria did you consider?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's a very, very critical question. And I chose Hy-Vee as my first brick and mortar partner. They actively support emerging brands, and they actually made the process accessible through RangeMe. And RangeMe has been really great for me. It's been, they allow small founder-led brands like me get in front of major buyers without a big broker network. So I've been using that. And I applied through the Hy-Vee Opportunity Supplier Impact Summit on RangeMe. filled out an application and I was selected back in September, and that which validated the fit. And you asked the question about criteria, and I was, that was simple. It was a retailer that welcomes innovation, that has customers who were looking for premium gluten-free products, and offers a real partnership. And Hy-Vee checked each one of those boxes.
That's great. That's
Well,
great.
nice call out there to friends of the show, Joe Tarnowski and Wayne Bennett at RangeMe. And for the folks out there, Andrea's story is not unique. So if you're looking for a way to try to get the name of your brand out there, you should contact them and see about their services. It has worked for a lot of people and it saves
Mm-hmm.
a ton of time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Andrea, talk to us a little bit about, there's all these different classes of trade. There's club and there's grocery and there's natural and there's C-store and things like that. And then you have potentially SKUs that are on Amazon. So how do you manage maybe if you have different pack sizes or different pricing? Have you kind of come to that in your journey? I know Hy-Vee is your first retailer, but I guess, do you have different SKUs on Amazon or online on your website or different pricing than you do, going to Hy-Vee?
So I'm not on Amazon yet. I will be on in early 2026.
Yeah.
But in terms of pricing, for across the states and DTC, for me, it's a great question, and I feel that it's all about balance. So my goal is to build a premium brand that still feels accessible, and I believe that our pricing reflects that. We maintain value while respecting the realities of each market. So while the cookie might be 4.29, say in Wyoming, it might be 4.79 in Boston, not because the cookie changes, but because of the economics do.
Mm-hmm.
So for DTC, the experience is part of the price. So I offer free shipping, premium packaging, and the emotional connection. And then, as we talked about before, in retail, it's about velocity, consistency, and perceived worth. People, I believe, will always pay for something that's meaningful, beautiful, and reliable.
Yeah. And I think the word that comes to mind too is you're so authentic. And I think your brand is authentic and your story is authentic. And I think that's what consumers today are really looking for. And
Thank you.
your brand and you portray that for sure. So,
Well, the other thing that'll be interesting is by your word choice, you've already given this a lot of thought, which is good because we've seen, many emerging brands. They're in such a hurry to sell that they cut all these one-off deals, and they wake up one day and they've got
Yeah.
7 different price points, and one day, one
Mm-hmm.
retailer will pick up the phone and go, Andrea, what's going on? So
Right.
it's good to think of those things in advance like you are. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's talk about the things that you have done so far or might be planning to do if you care to share those in terms of marketing to drive awareness and trial of the P.S. I Love You cookies.
Another great question. And for me, as a founder-led brand, it's all about storytelling. So, as I mentioned, our packaging carries my grandmother's story, and it's not marketing copy. It's emotion on paper. On social media, I share behind the scenes moments, travel, production days. It's the reality of building the brand from the ground up. And I believe that honesty creates connection. We prioritize sampling. So once someone tastes the cookie, the product does the convincing. For product awareness, we partner with gluten-free influencers and associations like the National Celiac Association and GFFP, which is the gluten-free food program, and they're the ones who have certified my products. And that's to meet audiences who care about the authenticity and safety of gluten-free products.
how are you evaluating the impact and effectiveness of the money you are spending right now? Because I mean, let's be honest, whether you're running Budweiser or P.S. I Love You, all the commercial people, sales, marketing, BD, they should be paying close attention to what they're getting for their money. And that is super true with emerging brands because there's not as much of the money laying around.
Sure. And I think that in terms of metrics, I'm still very early on. So for me, when someone says, I'm not even gluten free, but I love your cookies, and I hear that a lot, I know that I'm not just, we're not just filling a dietary niche, we're connecting emotionally. But on the data side, I track repeat orders, sell through rates, and engagement. And if people feel something when they interact with the brand, then I know we're doing our job.
Yeah, that's
Well,
great.
that's good. The repeat rate is great to measure because then you get what, Tracy and I were trained on use up. Like how fast will this consumer come back into the market? So again, you're doing all the thoughtful things. Tracy?
Yeah, so small emerging brands obviously use, in some instances, a broker. So tell us maybe a little bit about your experience so far. Have you hired a broker? I think you and I talked early on about that you've interviewed some brokers or sales agents. So tell us a little bit about, what those discussions have been like and how do you feel about that?
Sure. Another, critical decision. I have not started working with a broker, but I've started actively interviewing. And for me, it starts with alignment. I want someone who truly believes in the brand, someone who feels proud to tell the story, not just selling another SKU, right? Chemistry matters. I'm learning that compensation depends on the stage. It's often commission based. It's a small retainer plus commission, but structures matter. Structure matters less than trust. And when I do hire a broker, they would be part of the team. It's not just another vendor. Um, and I know when I have a broker, it's important to share the wins, upcoming opportunities, and the challenges, so that they would always feel informed and valued. And, when issues come up, and of course they do, I think it's important that you know, that one doesn't immediately replace them because I believe that retailers appreciate consistency, and it builds retailer confidence.
Right.
Yep. So that kind of leads into our next topic here, Andrea, and since you haven't hired a broker yet, but you are in business, and again, the things you're saying, what's your personal belief and style in terms of working through a challenge, whether it's with your co-manufacturer, a broker or sales agent in the future, or anyone so far that's touching your business? What's kind of the way you think through, man, that wasn't great, kind of a speed bump. How would you address that versus just immediately turn the page? They're out. Losers. Got to move on.
Yeah, definitely not losers. It's all about communication, right? It's often, you're just thinking differently, so you just gotta communicate, and that often resolves the problem. I'd say there's always a solution. So I've always been able to come up with a solution because they want to help you. So so far I've always been able to come up with a solution. You just can't give up. So if someone can't help you, you can always find another team member, usually within the organization, to help you and get where you need to be.
No, and that's again personal opinion. That's the right way to do it because if you're always turning over suppliers or personnel, eventually people will go, "What's the matter with those people? Everything's always so unsettled.
Right.
Why would I take the free ticket on the Titanic? No, thank you." Tracy?
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about hiring a contract manufacturer. So talk to us a little bit about the due diligence you did and what was important to you in choosing someone to work with to make your cookies. They're, so the taste and the ingredients are so important in your brand story. How did you go about selecting the right contract manufacturer?
This is such an important part of, such an important part of the brand. Um, this took me a long time. And I would, definitely recommendations, talking to other founders. I recommend, if you can, visit the facility if it's nearby. I would, meet the people. You have to ask a lot of questions. You want to know, when was their last inspection? Are they, what are their different certifications? Are they, gluten-free certified? If that's, if you're a gluten-free product, what's their allergen control plan? What are their minimums is really important. Are they going to be able to support a small brand like yours? What are their lead times, for example? Like, because that's very important as you work with retailers, who often want products very quickly. And if the co-packer can only make something, a lot of times if they need 30 days to produce something, and you have to order the ingredients, so everything has to line up accordingly. You're trusting them with your reputation.
Yeah.
So their
Absolutely.
standards need to meet yours.
Mhm.
My co-packer is fantastic. They're dedicated gluten free. They're their standards match mine, so I entrust my reputation with them, so I can concentrate on focusing on growing my brand. So um, that's such an important part of everything, that you want to get that right in the beginning, so you don't have to worry about it. And as we just talked about, jump to a new, someone new from the get-go.
Right, which is very difficult to change co-manufacturers
Yes.
in the middle of things. Very difficult to do.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and folks, a couple of things Andrea just said there that you've heard before with co-manufacturers, if at all possible, visit the site.
Yes.
Visit the site and see things with your own eyes. Asking about last inspection is very important. If there were any citations by the regulatory authorities, what were they? How were they resolved? Certifications, very important. Minimum order quantities, because with a small emerging brand, let's face it, none of us really know how it's going to go. So if you really hit on something, is your supplier going to tell you, hey, Andrea, see you in 6 months? Or is there a way that they can move things around? Those are all very important. And then also make sure that if you're in a category where you can get big quickly, can your co-manufacturer keep up if you really grow? It's one thing if you're making something super expensive without a lot of volume versus making something where you might be needing trailer truckloads each week. So that was all great commentary there. All right, Andrea, what are the couple of pieces of advice you would give to entrepreneurs out there that might be, a few steps behind you? They have an idea, they've put pen to paper, they're willing to commit some blood, sweat, tears, and cash. What are a couple of the pieces of advice you'd put out there and say, boy, make sure you do this and this, and I wish I had done that sooner. Those are just some examples.
Yeah, another great question. I would say, you know, just don't jump at every opportunity that looks, too good to be true. Um, Everything, in the early days, and I'm still in the beginning, everything feels urgent. It's easy to say yes at every opportunity that looks, really shiny, because you want to build momentum. but not every opportunity is going to be the right one for your brand, your finances. Ask questions, understand the real costs, make sure it aligns with your strategy, not your ego. That's really hard. You've got to always put that in check and take a step back. I would say go slow to go fast. Build your fundamentals, your product, your supply chain, your packaging. Sometimes, some days, it feels like you're going really slow, but you just want to go. You want to go slow, and then once you have everything in check, then you can go, so-called fast. Pricing, before you go trying to scale. My last piece of advice was surround yourself with founders that are steps ahead of you and ask them questions. Their lessons will save you time and money and so-called heartbreak. So I think that if you can find some founders that will be able to answer questions and help you out, then that could be very helpful.
Okay,
Great.
Tracy, say it. Small ball.
Yeah. Start small and then grow it from there. Absolutely. We call it small. We call it small ball here at Road to Retail podcast.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so good. And that is the hardest thing for an entrepreneur. And you just hit it on the head, Andrea, to say no.
Yeah.
And, Bruce has his example of his coffee brand. I'll let him tell it, but don't take it just because the buyer gives you a meeting doesn't mean it's the right retailer. That retailer gets paid to have meetings. So I really applaud you, and that's just the best advice.
Well, and I'm sorry, Tracy. And the other things that are important about what Andrea said, folks, is you've heard from past episodes, war stories of brands that got in. They had a positive meeting with a big retailer, and instead of going to like 400 stores with their three best SKUs and working out all the kinks, they went bananas and go full chain with like 5 SKUs. And it's just a killer to your cash flow to fill those orders with the inventory and then sit around for 90 days or whatever it might be until you get paid. And then if you haven't really paid attention, there's all these dings off of the payment you're expecting. Oh, free goods, slotting. This pallet was damaged, and you might be expecting X dollars and it's X minus 45%. And you're like, what the hell? So
Right.
starting slow and working out the kinks while hard, that is the right move. Tracy?
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we're rounding third and heading home here, Andrea. So tell us, I think I already know the answer to this, but who's had the greatest influence on your career and why?
Yes, I mean, I think it's my grandmother Rose. She everything she taught me, but about and the greatest, taught me how food is an act of love, and even anything as small as it is, but like a cookie and a passed down recipe that can be carried generations of meaning. So she never ran a business, but she built her legacy, and everything that I do now, from the patience, the attention to detail, the joy of creating something that makes people happy, everything comes from her.
I love that.
Well,
What a great story.
yeah, if you had to list like the top 10 smells in a household, fresh cookies baking is on the list. So tip of the cap to Grandma Rose. All right,
Yeah.
Andrea. I will say I dread what this answer might be. Who is your favorite sports team, band, or brand? And why do you support them? Can't say P.S. I love you.
Yeah.
No, I would never do that. No, you know what? I'm going to say for a clothing brand, and I'm going to say Ralph Lauren, because he doesn't just sell clothes; he builds worlds, which I've always admired. His brand makes you feel something, nostalgia and beauty, belonging. It's timeless yet fresh. And that's what I want for P.S. I Love You, something that feels like home and aspiration at the same time.
That's a
Well,
great answer.
Ralph Lauren has had quite the staying power, and they just keep evolving, and they've never seemed to fall into the dustbin of a has-been brand, So kudos to those folks for staying sharp. Folks, the reason I was dreading Andrea's from Boston, and as a Yankee fan, I was fearful she might say the Red Sox, but we would have had to edit that out, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Bleep her out.
Andrea, Andrea, thank you so much for your time. Your story is fantastic.
Thank you.
How can people reach out to you if they wanted to maybe ask you a question or learn more about your brand? What's the best way to get in touch and track P.S. I Love You?
You can email me at hello at eatpsiloveyou.com, or at Instagram or Facebook at eatpsiloveyou. And please, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out.
Well,
That's
thank
great.
you so much for offering the personal touch there on the email. Okay, Tracy, the big finish.
Absolutely.
Make
The
it a
big
good one,
fit.
man.
I will. Andrea, this has been awesome. What great advice, and your love for your brand and your passion. We so appreciate it very, very much. So, audience, thanks for joining us today. Please follow us on Spotify, on Apple, as well as our YouTube page. Also, our website, www.road2retail.com. And when we post every Tuesday, and look for those links to those connections on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. So we appreciate it, Andrea, very much, and you have a fantastic day. And audience, thanks so much for joining us.
Good luck out there, folks.